right, so today I want to talk about a question that I get asked quite often. And that question is, hey, I've got two loan splits. So for whatever reason, and I won't go into in too much detail, but I might have a $300,000 loan and a $200,000 loan on the same property. An example might be if you build, you get one loan for the land and then you get another loan for the actual build, the construction after that. So anyway, you've got two variable loans. Now the question I often get asked is, can the offset account offset both loans? So what I want to deconstruct is the question and why that generally speaking doesn't matter, and when it does matter. Because when it matters, it's actually fairly rare that it actually matters, and what I want to show is why. So let's say, for example, you've got your total loan is $500,000. Let's say you built your place, you've got a $200,000 loan for the land, and then you've got $300,000 for the construction. So probably not too many spots in Sydney, but maybe this person's cashed up, maybe they've bought somewhere else. Anyway, they open up their internet banking and they can see two loans, one for $200,000 and one for $300,000. Now let's say they've got $100,000 in their offset account. The effect on, if that offset account is attached to this loan, because as I said, it can only be attached to one loan at any time, can't be attached to both, it will offset the equivalent of $100,000 debt. So let's say, let's say the interest rate's 3%. Over the course of the year, that is offsetting the equivalent of $3,000 interest for the year. So roughly $250 or thereabouts. I think exactly $250, there you go. So $250 a month sort of thing. All right, now if we have that same offset account on the other loan, $100K is still $100K. That offsets $100,000 worth of debt, which is still $3K per annum or $250 per month. So regardless of which loan split it's on, it's got exactly the same impact. Now, some people will be like, yeah, but what if it was against both at the same time? So I'll show you what that looks like. So it's definitely a fair enough question. I do this all the time, so it's easy for me to go, well, this is the answer. And I think the answer is fairly, when you kind of understand it, it's a fairly obvious answer, but it is a very good question. It's one that I get asked a lot. And if you're not necessarily kind of maths sort of minded, I do definitely understand where people would get kind of mixed up with it. So $100,000 against a $500,000 loan. So if these were combined, then this loan can 100% offset this loan, but it can only ever offset the amount that's actually in that account. So in this circumstance, it's offsetting $100,000 worth of debt, which is the equivalent of 3% of 100,000, so $3K per annum regardless. All right, so it's exactly the same, whether it's offsetting everything at the same time or each individual one. Now, when does it matter? Because I did say that it does matter sometimes. Now, when it matters is if the offset account is actually larger than the loan split that it is offsetting. So let's say we had offset of $300,000. So against the $200,000 loan, this would be offsetting $200,000. So let's say 3%, that's now $6K per annum. And generally speaking, the other $100,000 with offset accounts, it's either going to be earning you zero, or it might be earning you a little bit above that. So let's say it's a really generous funder and they're giving you 1% above that. So 1% on the last 100 is 1,000. So in this case, you have made 1,000 plus you've saved 6,000. So I'll call it 7K. Not going to go into, and nor can I, talk about any sort of implications of earning compared to saving interest or anything like that. Definitely good to speak with your financial advisor, that sort of thing about that if you've got any questions on that. But just that aggregate total of those figures, $7,000. Now, if you had, I don't need to rub that out, but I will. I will. If you had $3,000 against, sorry, $300,000 against this loan, like I said, offset account has to be against only one loan. And this is universal. There's not like some magical bank that allows you to have an offset account that's against multiple loans at the same time. This is then offsetting $300,000 worth of interest, which is $9K per annum. So it was $7K up here, including the interest that we're getting on that top one, $9K down here. So this is when it matters. So if the offset account is larger than the loan split it's against, that's when it matters. That's when, now what would you actually do in that case? You could, if the lender allows you to have multiple offsets, you could have one offset against this one and another against this one. So let's say you had $400,000 in savings. So in total, you've got 300 against the 300, then you've got 100 against the 200. And so your entire 400 is working against both loans. Or you might decide to maybe pay off one of the loans completely because you're fairly flush with cash if you're looking for ways to offset extra. Like to be in this position, you've obviously got a lot of cash, so you might be willing to do that or prefer to do that. Or you might want to actually amalgamate these if you wanted to keep only one offset account, or if the lender only allowed you to have one offset account. And so then move that into a single $500,000 loan, that a $400,000 offset account would still be fully offset. So that the main thing to think about is really, is my offset account less than the actual loan it is offsetting? That's the main thing to think about. It doesn't matter if you've got 100 different loan accounts, as long as the actual loan that the offset account is against, the offset account is less than that loan that it's actually against. Yeah, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that answered the questions. I think that's probably everything to kind of explain around that. And yeah, I think that makes sense. Cool. Thanks.